I'm Michael Henry, and in this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about food shame. Food shame is whenever we start to feel shame or guilty for the food that we're actually eating. And this is typically related to whenever we label foods as bad, because all of a sudden now when we eat those bad foods, we see ourselves as bad, and that's when we feel ashamed. This happens to us because it is deeply ingrained within our subconscious that we need to look a certain way, we need to act a certain way, we need to eat a certain type of food or certain variety of foods. And if we don't do that, then we are technically bad. And this happens because we're exposed to so much information out on the internet, social media, exposed to TV or YouTube, talking to people, having to actually look a certain way, be a certain weight, or actually just have a certain amount of fitness. And if we don't have that, and it comes to food and we're eating in a certain way that's like, these are good foods and these are bad foods. Like I was saying, when we label the foods as good or bad and we end up eating those bad foods, we end up turning that back onto us saying like, we're bad, and we shame ourselves, we guilt ourselves, and we basically reprimand ourselves for eating those foods. This is a problem not because of the food that we're eating, because the food itself is actually going to digest through your system perfectly fine. Our bodies are amazing and very well equipped to be able to digest unhealthy foods or foods that are a little bit more challenging and not as nourishing, and we end up just excreting it and pooping it out into the toilet anyway. But what sticks with us is the feelings of shame and guilt around the food that we eat. It actually buries into our consciousness. We end up feeling a little bit ashamed, we feel like guilt, and then all of a sudden it builds up on top of each other, and they don't necessarily get digested and pooped out the same kind of way. These types of feelings and emotions stick with us, and they build and compound over each other, making it worse and worse for us over time. So, the worst thing about food shame is not the food itself, it's the emotions and the feelings that we have around the food that we're actually eating that makes things so much worse. If you're the type of person that thinks that they don't feel food shame, think again. Everybody does. If you're exposed to basically anything on social media, anything on the internet, or basically talking to anyone in the world, it surrounds us everywhere. There's definitely some sort of epidemic when it comes to what is good and what is bad when it comes to food, and you definitely have deep-rooted feelings about certain foods, so when you do eat them, you will feel that shame. Now, you may not be attuned to it and be able to tap in to feel those things, but if you start to eat something that is not necessarily healthy for you, I want you and I encourage you to think about how you feel in that moment. Do you feel guilty? Do you find yourself trying to eat alone so that you don't have judgment coming from other people? These are different ways that shame comes up for you when it regards to food and food consumption. So next time you think, oh, I don't actually have food shame, think again. Tap in, feel the feelings that you have around those negative or bad foods that you're eating, and see what actually comes up for you. Because everybody feels food shame, and if you don't think you do, you definitely do. Food shame comes up for people in different situations, in different scenarios, because we're all very different. A lot of the times it comes from emotional. So we emotionally eat, and then we feel guilty about the food that we're eating, and we shame ourselves as a result. So how do we deal with this? The best thing to do is whenever you catch yourself eating unhealthy foods or bad foods, you need to actually stop and think about what it is that you're feeling. Are you actually emotionally eating right now? Because that's okay, that's not a problem. Emotionally eating is a normal thing. We actually eat all the time and we're happy and excited. That is a normal emotional reaction to eating. It's whenever we have these negative emotions that we're trying to bury with food that become the problem. Now, it's not that we want to stop ourselves from emotionally eating, it's that we want to allow ourselves the opportunity to be able to recognize and acknowledge the feelings that we have and say, it's okay, I'm actually going to eat these Oreos right now because I'm having a rough day, I'm feeling a little stressed, but I'm gonna enjoy these Oreos. I'm not gonna mindlessly consume them and try to bury my feelings. I'm gonna acknowledge my feelings, and then I'm also going to enjoy these Oreos instead. So what I suggest is that whenever you catch yourself eating bad foods or unhealthy foods, I want you to actually tap into what you're currently doing. Bring your awareness to your mind and your body connection and allow yourself to actually eat these foods with a conscious mind. Don't do it automatically, and don't use your subconscious mind to just mindlessly eat, whether you're watching a movie, going for a walk, talking to someone, and not actually paying attention to the food that you're eating, because if you're gonna be eating foods that are technically bad or unhealthy, typically they're a little bit more enjoyable pleasure-wise because they have sweetness to them or something like that, so you might as well be mindful and conscious of those foods and enjoy them. Because then that way you get to actually enjoy them and feel more satisfied once you're done. and allow yourself to actually enjoy it without feeling the shame and guilt like, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. Just be like, you know what? I should be eating this because I don't feel so great. I've had a rough day, and it's okay that I'm going to eat these foods. Tomorrow's another day. I can be a little bit better tomorrow, but today I just want to have some Oreos, and that's okay.